Have you ever thought about floating in the wide, endless space connected to the spacecraft by just a thin cord, when suddenly you feel something wet inside your helmet? It's not sweat or condensation, but water, and it starts to fill your protective headgear, putting you at risk of drowning in space. This terrifying situation became a reality for Italian astronaut Luca Parmitano during a routine spacewalk in July 2013. What was the reason that a simple cosmic expedition turned into a life-threatening emergency? Before finding the answer, take a look at the first spacewalk. The Italian Luca Parmitano was a crew member on Expedition 36 aboard the International Space Station, or ISS. This mission focused on important maintenance and upgrades needed to keep the ISS running smoothly. On July 9, 2013, Parmitano and NASA American astronaut Chris Cassidy began the first of two scheduled outings outside Cosmic Station. They floated in the cosmos to complete important tasks and prepare for the next mission. Their work was to get the ISS ready for new modules and to reroute cables for future improvements. The first trip went smoothly and took about 6 hours. Feeling confident, they looked forward to the second spacewalk scheduled for July 16, 2013, as Parmitano and Cassidy prepared for their second spacewalk. It started smoothly. Parmitano and Cassidy started working on their tasks while staying in touch with mission control on Earth. About 44 minutes into the spacewalk, Luca felt something unusual at the back of his head. It seemed like there was a lot of water gathering there. At first, he thought it was just a minor issue. Liquid in space doesn't act like it does on Earth and doesn't form droplets or pools because of the lack of gravity. Instead, it clings to your skin like a gel, and there's no easy way to wipe it away. He suspected it might be from the water bag in his spacesuit that provides drinking water through a straw. Parmitano drank all the water to see if that would stop it from entering his helmet, but it didn't help. The bag was empty, yet there was still some liquid in his helmet, about less than a liter. Karina Eversley, who managed the extravehicular activity, said, "When I heard that, it instantly made me realize that something was not right." Her team began asking Luca detailed questions like, how much fluid was there? Was the amount increasing? Was he sure it was water? The liquid that floated around tasted bad and metallic. Mission Control asked the astronauts to wait while they looked into the situation and figured out what to do next. He was worried because the water had soaked his communication headset, which could cause problems with his mic or earphones, making it difficult to talk to Chris and the operations center. He said, "My head is really wet and I have a feeling it's getting worse. It's too much now in my eyes." As time went on, Parmitano's situation became more dangerous. The cause of the fluid remained unknown, and the control center had to figure out how to guide him back to safety. They responded that the water in Luca's eyes was increasing, and they decided to end the Cosmos activity. The Italian man needed to get back to the airlock as soon as possible. But moving in space with poor vision and hearing was difficult, and each decision was crucial. They were trying to rush back to the airlock, the small chamber that acts as a safe transition zone between the vacuum of space and the pressurized atmosphere of the ISS. He had to make his way back to the safe area about 90 feet away, while Chris stayed behind to gather their equipment and secure everything. They had to go separate ways to prevent their straps from getting tangled, as they were connected to the space station at different spots. This separation made Parmitano uneasy. He later said, "I just had this feeling. I wish Chris could come with me." As he started his slow journey back, the sun set. Unlike Earth, where sunset is gradual, in space it goes from daylight to complete darkness in seconds. The only light had come from the small lamps on his helmet, but they weren't very bright. Cosmic light doesn't spread like it does on Earth because there's no air to scatter it. On his way, Luca had to move around an antenna sticking out from the space station. He flipped his body so his head faced the station and his feet pointed toward the sky. Suddenly, blobs of water covered his eyes and nose. In that instant, Parmitano knew he was in serious trouble. If the liquid kept building up, he could drown. He later described the feeling as being like walking around with your eyes closed inside a fishbowl, an incredibly uncomfortable and dangerous experience. To make things worse, his headset stopped working, so he couldn't hear Mission Control, who could have helped guide him back. He couldn't even see the handholds he was supposed to grip. The only thing he could rely on was the tension in his ropes, which now was truly a lifeline. His deep knowledge of the ISS's layout also became crucial. He said, I went back to just using memory, basically making my way to the airlock until I found it. Finally, he managed to open the airlock cover. Mission control confirmed, copy thermal cover open. When the Italian man entered the airlock, he couldn't remove his helmet immediately. He had to wait for Chris to close the door and repressurize the chamber to match the space station's internal pressure. Only after this process could they safely open the inner access panel, enter the station, and remove their helmets. Chris notified the crew. "Thermal cover is closed. I'm in." NASA astronaut Karen Nyberg, along with her Russian teammates in the main part of the station, took control of repressurizing the airlock. "Okay, here comes the equalization," she announced. Cosmonauts must adjust to pressure changes, similar to how swimmers release air through their noses. However, with water in his helmet, Luca couldn't equalize the pressure with his ears as the force increased, so his pain became unbearable. Parmitano tried shouting to Karen to slow down the process, but his communication device had failed again. Mission Control in Houston called, "Hey Luca, how are you doing? Give us a status." When he didn't respond, his fellow astronaut Shane asked, "Squeeze my hand if you're okay." Although he looked miserable, he squeezed Shane's hand to indicate that he was fine. After a torturous 7 minutes, the chamber was finally reconditioned. The hatch was opened and Houston requested, "Airlock, have towels ready." The crew quickly brought Parmitano through the entrance to remove his suit as fast as possible. When a Russian cosmonaut attempted to take off his helmet, Karen stopped him, reminding the team that the gloves had to be removed first to prevent the headset from flying off. Once the gloves were loosened, they carefully removed the helmet. Some of the water even floated away in the weightlessness of space. The biggest mistake wasn't a technical issue, it was a human error. A week before the incident, Luca had noticed water in his helmet after his first spacewalk. He and Chris thought the water was from a leaky drinking bag, so they discussed it with Mission Control. Everyone agreed that it was just a problem with the drinking bag, so they replaced it and moved on. Nobody believed it was a serious issue. NASA later calculated that about 1.5 liters of water had leaked into his helmet. The source of the leak was found to be the cooling system in the EMU suit. It uses water to keep the astronaut at the right temperature during a planetary journey. NASA learned a valuable lesson from this incident. Engineers made improvements to the spacesuits, adding a breathing tube to the helmet, similar to a snorkel, and an absorbent pad around the head to keep this from happening again. The biggest takeaway for NASA was realizing that past experience cannot be relied upon to predict future problems. Like the video, visit our channel for more and keep updated.